We've seen that. We know what happens. Why couldn't they put that in there? You know? Why do we have to sit through that twice?
Because they've got time to fill. You know what? You say
why
it's
not fill that time with story? They're repeating what you've already done. There was so much story that should have been in there that wasn't. In order to make the narrative work.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe they cut out the wrong things, like utterly the wrong things.
Yeah, I think they definitely cut out the wrong
Maybe
things.
they added in alternate scenes that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, no, I think they just added in so much action. Like, well, we can't get rid of the action because that's people punching each other.
So important.
That's the important bit. Yeah, because why would anyone go to the cinema unless it was to see people punching each other? Anyway, Tom,
I thought we were done with this mentality, especially with Christopher Nolan at the head of the direction.
Apparently not.
And Zack Snyder, director of Watchmen.
Well,
what's happened?
I think I've been talking for a long time. Do you have any more thoughts about?
Well, I suppose I do.
First half of the film.
About the first half of the film.
Yeah.
Well, okay. One thing that did strike me that I did like.
Yeah.
Is the soundtrack. Hans Zimmer does a great job with the soundtrack.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a great the actual sort of theme of the film is actually really enjoyable to listen to.
It is. It's
even more so on its own when you haven't got in the background. Why don't you tell me what you think of Lois Lane?
I think that Lois Lane is where the story should have been. I found her by far and away the most interesting character. I thought Amy Adams' performance was by far and away the best, even though Henry Cavill did what he was told to do very well.
Yes.
I thought if they had approached the story through Lois Lane, if we got to see there's rumours of a superhero across the world, because the whole idea of the Man of Steel is that superheroes are starting to emerge in the DC universe, like all over the place. Like the idea that I read online is that Superman is going to be the first. He is the symbol, and all the other superheroes are going to rise up under his influence. So if they were doing that, a really interesting way to do that is not to tell the story through Superman, as I believe they did in the older Superman films. But if they'd had Lois Lane hearing murmurings about a Superman, and we get to see her travelling the world, finding out different things. There wasn't enough of a story in the film, but I think they definitely could have turned that into an interesting story. Yeah,
from her perspective, it would have been more interesting in many ways.
Yeah.
Not in all ways, but many.
Not in all ways, and I'm sure there would have been complaints because there wasn't enough Superman in the film. But I think it just would have been such a more interesting way of telling that story.
Yeah, trouble is they want to make Justice League, and Superman has to be at the head of this.
Yeah.
Is this all about Justice League? Is a question I did have in my mind. Is this the goal?
No, Justice League is going to come out.
I sometimes wonder that because Avengers has made so much fucking money, and if they did make Justice League with Superman and the Green Lantern and Batman and whoever else is in it, it would probably make nearly as much.
Yeah.
And that excites, I think, DC Comics.
Yeah, no, I think it would make as much, because Superman's doing very well at the box office.
I mean, having said that, there has been a lot of effort put in departments other than the script writing.
Oh, yeah. No, the special effects are wonderful, the music's wonderful.
Of course, yeah.
I'm sure it was well produced. I'm not really sure what that job entails.
I don't tend to, when we talk about problems in a movie, I tend not to gravitate towards plot holes, just more, as you say, storytelling. But there is one that does bug me a bit, and I don't, as I say, don't normally want to go drone on about it, but they should all be dead. All these humans who are constantly, there's a bit where the big thing that's on one end of the planet. It's like Torture of Miracle Day all over again. Yeah, there's a bit where there's a massive blue explosion and loads of people are killed. Lois Lane is simply falling from merely meters below this explosion. She should have died. I love to be able to go into the positives, but I really have said all of them.
Yeah, we have gone into the positives. It's like there was the DNA of a good film there.
Yeah.
Definitely. but there was too much time put on action. There was not enough time put on the story, like developing the characters.
I'd actually say there was actually a better use of your time to go and check out Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, and Russell Crowe on the Graham Norton show.
Yeah.
That was a lot more enjoyable.
I bet it was, yeah.
They were a really funny bunch.
There's just a lot of stuff happening in sequence, and there's no real drama built up around it. There's no drama built around the choice of whether Superman should turn himself in or not, because the character of Superman knows right from wrong. The world is black and white, and it's right for him to do this. There's a scene with him with a priest, and he tells the priest, I'm the one they're looking for.
And he goes, ooh.
And then Superman's like, yeah, whatever, I'll just go. No, it's fine, priest. No, don't worry. I just came to tell you that I'm going to go because I want God to know that I'm really, really virtuous.
And I want to bring up one nitpick you did have about the fact that all this amazing technology that Zod and his friends have, and yet the transmission to all the televisions and radios happens to be incredibly, phenomenally poor quality.
White noise, yeah.
It's white noise.
Yeah. I'm not a kryptonologist, so I'm not sure. I don't know about Kryptonian technology, but you would think if you could access every screen on Earth, you'd be able to broadcast a picture onto those screens. Superman comes back to Earth because he wants Earth to be safe, but Zod and his girlfriend want to punch Superman, so they punch Superman into a building.
Yeah, they do punch him, and then he punches them in return. So
it's true, I remember that bit. Yeah, he does punch them back, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's like the consequence of his actions.
Yeah, it's like they're having a battle because they have differing opinions on what should be done in the future. It's pretty deep in that way, in that they each have motivations. They need to punch each other to make sure that their motivations are fulfilled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember I came out of the film saying there were no pointless scenes? You're right, there were pointless scenes. There were so pointless scenes. I mean, relative to the story they wanted to tell, there were only like 1 or 2 pointless scenes. Yeah. So well, I suppose that's praise?
I want to be clear here. I had nothing against the action. The action was really good. But it was so overindulgent. I think every single one of those action sheet scenes could have been half as long, except for the final Zod-Superman battle, because by the time we got to that battle, we wouldn't have been completely bored out of our minds. You know, so that the length of that battle was just right, because these two are meant to be our antagonist, our protagonist.
Yeah.
But we spent so long getting to it. We've had so many bangs, so many punch, and...
Normally when a battle's happening on screen, I don't want it to end. I wanted this one to fucking end.
Yeah.
As I say, the dialogue descends into just meaningless mutterings. Yeah. So it starts out with, do you understand what you've taken from me? Then, okay, big punch out. Stuff flying through the sky, some quite nice shots. And then it goes into, why won't you just stop? Never. Something like that.
They need to make it clear that we know that they don't like each other.
I was pretty straight on that, oddly enough.
Were you straight on that?
I guessed, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, no, well, they didn't give you any clues. So being crazy sarky, I did like the action. It went on too long, which is why I'm coming down negatively on the action. There was one bit that I really did like, and that was when the baddies, the SS, came to Martha Kent's house, and they were threatening her, and then Superman he flies at Zod as fast as he can. He grabs him and he just pounds him into the ground, and he smashes him through buildings, because there we see how much his mother means to him.
There's a reason for it.
And that was a real, genuinely heartfelt, emotional moment. That was where Henry Cavill could shine the most, was when he was given something to perform.
Yes. Rather than nothing to perform other than I hate you, die.
So there's so much emotion that there could have been in here, but they pass over it. They say, yeah, this is happening. Okay, you've got it? Okay, next scene. Okay, next scene. Okay, next scene. Punching! An hour! Punching! And then they round off the film. I thought the end of the film was really good. we get to see Superman finally fulfilling who he is in the comics. Like he joins the Daily Planet and he's going to be a photographer and he's going around the Earth to save people. That was good.
Yeah, and it's left a mystery as to whether Lois Lane actually did recognise him. And obviously she should have recognised him because it looked blatantly like him. But it could have been that she didn't know, because that's meant to be the idea behind the comics. So something interesting to end it on.
It left me with real hope for the next film, as long as they get a different director writing team, and as long as Christopher Nolan puts some of the thoughts that he put into the writing of The Dark Knight. Because you may not like The Dark Knight, I can understand that, but the thematic story of The Dark Knight is really strong.
It is, it's brilliant.
It's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but I'd say it was a damn sight better than this film.
I saw Star Trek Into Darkness again recently, and it reminded me that how much I preferred that. Because there is a point. The action isn't dwelled on too much. There's interesting dialogue. There's very interesting characters.
But I think more importantly than any of that, we know who the characters are. We know what their relationships with each other are. We see their relationships put through stressful times. We see their banter. And Kirk's a really charismatic character. So even if you don't like him, you're drawn into his story. And we don't have Lois Lane or Superman to be that figure in this story, because it's split more or less. They each get a third of the second act of the film. Jor-El is in the first act. The second act is split between the two of them, and you don't really get any build-up of emotion in those scenes, because it jumps to another one, it jumps to the next one, it jumps to Lois, it jumps to Clark. Yeah. And you can't... There's no real connection with those two. I think Star Trek Into Darkness is infinitely superior.
Yes. Despite the whole thing of Benedict Cumberbatch's character being fully capable of being a new villain rather than just being Khan.
Yes, there are dumb remake aspects to Into Darkness. But the film itself, if you take away your knowledge of Star Trek, then it's fine. It's absolutely fine. It's a good film. Whereas you need knowledge of Superman to enjoy this film. Yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah,
they rely on people being very faithful to the comics. Yeah. That's such a bad stance to take when you're making a movie of any kind, that you need to have experienced the previous form of media. Mm-hmm. Especially with something as big a blockbuster as this, that so many people with no familiarity, who want to gain familiarity, are going to see.
Such a tragic waste of a film.
I enjoyed parts of it, and I'm not disappointed that I saw it, because I don't see that many crap films. I barely see any films I dislike, so it was an eye-opener, and there were parts of it I did like. So I'm grateful to it in some respects.
Yeah. I was just hoping that it could do to Superman what The Dark Knight did to Batman.
Oh, that would have been wonderful.
Which was just make him accessible to filmgoers, and as opposed to people who read the comics. Because I don't read any DC comics, but I can still enjoy the Dark Knight series as films.
Are we going to conclude it there?
I'm absolutely going to conclude it here. I apologise that our first episode was just bitching.
It won't be the next time. Normally, this is why we normally like to talk about things we do like, because we end up just wearing out our steam.
We normally are very positive. We're normally very happy people. Yeah. But we weren't satisfied with our trip to the cinema this week. Go see Superman this instant if you love punching.
And if you've read a lot of the comics and you're keen to see another adaptation, that could be another reason.
Even if you're familiar with Superman, I think if you've seen the other films, then...
There's not much new to get out of it, though, as a Superman fan, I'd imagine.
Well, actually, I think the action is something you get out of it.
I suppose.
Because it's incredibly good action.
Most of the time.
You can see Superman fighting in the air as you have never seen him fight before.
That's true. That I will grant it. Along with the soundtrack and the main actors.
Bones of a good film, flesh of a terrible one. That's the metaphor that I am going to finish with and probably writing my Student Noodles review.
Join us next time when we talk about something we like, hopefully. Goodbye.
Goodbye.